Coming down with the heartache.
On this episode of Between Two Beers, we talk to Shaun Goldsbury. Shaun is a man of many talents. He represented New Zealand at beach and indoor volleyball, won the Northern Premier League with Tauranga City as a centre-back, and for 5 years was one of New Zealand's best poker players. Between 2008 and 2013, Shaun would enter 30 to 40 online poker tournaments a day, 4 days a week, and won over $2 million across multiple poker sites. And when he was done with poker, he quit cold turkey, never to play an online hand again. Instead, he focused on corporate success and in 2013 transitioned into the real world by taking an entry-level analyst job at Genesis Energy. In the last 7 years, he has been promoted 7 times and now answers directly to the CEO as a member of the executive team. In this episode, we talk about the epic afternoon he won close to $400,000 in an online poker tournament, the skills required to be a top-level poker player, why he left the game, how his perspective on money and life has changed, and how he used the skills acquired through problem-solving in poker to climb the corporate ladder in record time. Shaun is a close friend and one of the most intelligent people I know. This episode is filled with incredible memories, laughs, and moments of raw honesty. Hope you enjoy it as much as I did. You can listen to this episode on YouTube or download it wherever you get your podcasts. Shaun Goldsbury, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Thanks, Steve.
We are in Shaun's house in Mt Wellington.
Not Onehunga.
Not Onehunga, no. There's a bit of a mix-up on the way up to Auckland, but we got that cleared away, and we're now drinking some spice rum. Shaun's been nice enough to provide the drinks. First time a guest has done that on Between Two Beers, so very grateful. Shay, why don't you get us started? How do you know Shaun Goldsbury?
Well, before we hit record, Shaun and I were trying to work this out. So I don't really know, but I'm going to go with... Goldsbury was part of like a Gisborne clique that were in Hamilton in the late 90s, early 2000s. So most of them all played for Melville. Ross Maggs Morley, Grant Cooper, Matthew Parkin, Dave Watson, and Shaun Goldsbury was attached to that group as well. Now I asked Shaun before we hit record when he left University of Waikato, and that was in 99. And I started in 2000, so we can't have met at university. So I'm just going to say... peripheral person in the wider football context that I possibly would have seen over in Tauranga at National League in 2001. But I don't really know for sure. But we did come together at Characters United, Labour Weekend tournament, which we used to make an annual pilgrimage to, where we formed a strong connection. Goldsbury will probably have a different take on it, but before we get to his point, you know Shaun a lot better than I do.
Yeah, I do. Shaun's life overlapped with mine in 2 areas, but mostly one. So there's a bit of confusion when we kind of met, and he thought...
A real enigma.
Yeah, he thought I was my older brother, Donald. I kind of vaguely knew him. He was about, 8 years older than me, so different footballing circles, but we connected through poker. So in 2009... I had recently returned to New Zealand after a failed sort of professional football attempt in Australia, and it was sort of after the recession. There were no jobs, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had background as a journalist and I'd worked for OFC, but I couldn't really get a gig. So I decided that I was going to try to be a professional poker player, because I had played poker in America for a few years in the summer when I was in college over there, and I'd done quite well from it. The games were quite soft, and there I was living with my parents in Thames Street, and decided that fuck it, I'll see how much money I can make. So it started off just playing heads up sit and goes, which means 1-on-1 tournaments for $50 or $100, and did well enough to make about $1,000 a week. So $1,000 US a week doing that.
What's that in NZDs?
NZDs at that time, maybe 1,500, 1,600. It was a pretty decent exchange rate.
Good numbers.
So I did that for a couple of months, and then I was thinking, well, this might be a sustainable way to make a living. I think I was 23, 24, no responsibilities, not many outgoings. So I was thinking, right, I'm done. I did it for 3 months and then decided that this is going to be it. I'm going to give this a full crack. If I can live anywhere in New Zealand, where would I want to live? So I decided Mount Maunganui over summer is the place to go. So I moved to the Mount with Michael Main, Stu Watney. People will know those names as footballers. But when I was in the Mount, this is when I sort of bumped into Shaun, because he was there as a professional poker player. And I thought, what are the chances that, there's a very small pool of professional poker players in New Zealand at that time and now. And so what are the chances that someone who I loosely used to know through football is also a professional poker player, and he was a big dog. He was playing for much bigger amounts of money than me. He was much more successful. And we kind of bumped into each other on a night out, and then we connected, and then we pretty much spent most days over the next 3 years together, living in Papamoa together. We moved to Queenstown together and shared a lot of good times. So yeah, really excited to have Shaun on the podcast tonight, because there's a few layers to what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to spend a lot of time on poker, but also Shaun has transitioned into a super successful corporate job at Genesis Energy, where he's risen through the ranks in 6 years, about 6 promotions in 6 years, and we'll get into all of that. But he transitioned the skills he learned from poker to business, and yeah, I think he's got a really interesting story to tell. So with that intro, all the background there out of the way.
Should we try and do the whole episode without talking to him?
I want to start in perhaps one of the best stories that I have. And it took place in 2009. And Shaun was in a 2-day tournament on PokerStars. So every year PokerStars has this big series called Scoop. And one of the biggest tournaments is on a Sunday, which is a Monday in New Zealand, runs over 2 days. It's $215 to enter, and it gets thousands and thousands of entrants. So I sort of want to pick up the story at the start on the first day, because it's got a hell of an ending. Shaun, why don't you get us started? What do you remember from this specific tournament right at the start?
Well, thanks for having me on the podcast, guys. I appreciate the chance to have a chat. What do I remember? So, pretty standard Sunday in American time. So, get up Monday morning, New Zealand time, 6 a.m, playing kind of 16 to 20 tables at the same time during the day. Actually had a pretty good Sunday. So, I won Party Poker, had a speed tournament. I won about $8,000 in first place in that, and then On Game Network had a 50 cubed, $50 buy and $50 rebuy, $50 add-on, and I won that for about 22 or 23,000 US dollars. So
you've won 30 grand New Zealand Sunday.
Yeah.
And then Monday you're playing in this.
No. So New Zealand Monday.
Oh, New Zealand
playing
Monday.
The tournaments, which is Sunday in American.
Okay.
And so I had quite a big day, and so I'd usually spend 7,000 or 8,000 US dollars on that day. So you got to take that off. But I guess in the background I had this PokerStars Sunday Million Scoop tournament, and I wasn't really paying attention. It was just in the background. I was autopiloting, as we'd say in the poker world, just making basic decisions, playing good hands.
So you've got multiple games on multiple screens at the same time? Is that what
so
I'm hearing?
I used to play 3 screens. I used to play 16 to 18 tables pretty comfortably. I got up to 23, 24 at the same time at one stage, and it was a bit much for me. But up to about 20, I could still be a profitable player.
That sounds like a lot of admin.
I'm just going to jump in because there's some little... I know this is your story, but there are some little details that I think people might find interesting, because you've got 16 or 18 tables going at once, and it's a lot of money. Like, you're talking about $8,000 worth of buy-ins a day just to buy into the tournaments. So with so much money on the table, it was very hard to leave the seat, wasn't it? Because if you're leaving the seat, you're missing out on so many hands. So to counter that, the guys at the house we lived at got a maid in to make breakfast and lunch and dinners. And
I thought you were going to say you just pissed in the seat and stuff like they do at casinos to hold on to the pokey tables.
Her name was...
machines.
What casinos are you going to, bro?
Her name was Karen. Shout out Kazza.
Kazza?
Yeah, that's a little detail. Anyway, sorry. Continue as you were.
Yeah, so as we're talking about, so I think one of my strengths as a player is to play a lot of tables, you've got to be good at maths and really quick at maths. And so the quicker you are, the faster you make decisions. So most professionals probably in the 12 to 16 range. So I was probably a little bit higher. There were a few guys that played more tables than I did, but that was up there. So yeah, so what happens is you focus on a few main tournaments, main tables, the tournaments where you're deep and you've got a chance of winning decent cash. So anyway, so by the time the day rolled up, it was probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Been playing for 8 hours, and I just won this on-game tournament for $23,000, I think, and had a really good Monday session. And then I basically had this one table left, which was this Poker Stars, and it was there was 8,500 people in the tournament and $200 buy-in, and it was a 2-day tournament. So I kept playing through Monday afternoon. So once I reached that point, I think that's the point of the day. All the other boys in the house were usually finished, and for a bit of context, so there was 4 or 5 of us in that house that were professional poker players. There was myself and Stephen, and we had some friends from overseas, who I'm sure we'll talk about shortly. But anyway, I was the only one still playing. So I remember we went upstairs and everyone would sit around and we'd have a bourbon or a beer and discuss the day's events, and I kept playing this one table. We watched a bit of 24, which was that was the go at the house at that time. It got to about 8 o'clock at night and I was just over it, and I actually needed a break. So Neil DJ, or the Visionary as he was known, actually Division A because he can't spell. So Division A took over for me for half an hour to give me a break, and I jumped back on. And it got to about 9:30 at night, and of course when you're getting up at 6 a.m. to play poker, all the other boys are off to bed, so I'm up by myself now. I've been playing since 6 a.m. It's 9:30 and I'm over it, and I kind of figured I want get a few chips, or I want to just finish because I can't be bothered with this. So I started playing a bit looser, raising a few more hands, bluffing a few more hands. And
sounds like how I play.
Yeah, I call it a change of gears every now and then, not a number 1A strategy with no alternative. So anyway, so I had a few big hands, and I basically got to the end, and I think there was 63 players left for day 2. So
how many start this tournament?
8,500. Yep. So 8,500 people down to 63, and we finished on the Monday.
So 63 left going into day 2. What are you guaranteed return at that point?
So it's probably a couple of $1,000. I think $2,500 or $3,000 US.
Yep, locked up. So regardless of where you finished, you're getting that. But what was the first place? What were you playing for?
Yeah, so first prize was about $280,000 US, or close to 400,000 New Zealand.
Okay.
So that was the.
Can I ask a question? You go to bed, and you've got the possibility of this. How realistic is that in your mind that I'm playing for 400,000 New Zealand dollars, or are you more thinking, oh well, fuck, I'm going to get a few grand out of this regardless?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went to bed, even after, I was up 20 grand on the day, making $20,000 US on one day is a good day, and I was happy, and I wasn't really worried about this tournament, to be honest. I was kind of life's good, and it's fine, so it wasn't really. And I guess, the context as well, right? Like I used to play 30 or 40 tournaments a day and used to do it, 2 or 3 or 4 days a week, and did it for 5 years. So I've been deep in a lot of tournaments with a lot of money on the line, and and finished in 21st and 27th, and I'd certainly had that before. So I didn't expect to win, and I thought probably bust out in 9th like I always do, and walk away with 10 grand while everyone else gets 200.
And so at this point, how many big wins had you had? What was the biggest win you'd had in your poker career? Yeah,
so about probably about 2 or 3 months before, I'd won $70,000 US, and that was my biggest win at the time. And that was actually still one of the most frustrating things in my career, because I finished 3rd for $70,000. So that was it was about $160,000 US for first in that tournament. And I got down to the final 3, and there was me and another good player and a rubbish player. And I decided I'm going to go to war, and I'm going to own him, and I'm going to dominate the tournament and win. And I crashed and burned and came 3rd.
That's hard, I think, for people to understand how you could be disappointed making $70,000 and not be happy about that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of one of the frustrating things about being a poker player, isn't it? That unless you're winning a tournament, you're probably going to walk away frustrated because all the money is at the top. You finished third for 70,000. First must have been what, 200,000 or
Yeah, it's
something
about 160,000 US. Yeah.
like huge big jumps. But that said, okay, so your $70,000 is your biggest.
Yeah, I think also just another bit of... so I got two comments on that. So one is actually, like a lot of poker players, I'm super competitive, and actually I'd rather win a tournament for 5,000 than get third for 20,000, because when you win, you've got all the money you could possibly get, and you're happy, right? But when you get third, you're down to 3, and you're like, well, I've got at least 70,000, and I've got a chance at winning 100 or 160. So when you get 70, you're disappointed because you already banked that in your head, right? You've already put that aside. The other thing is actually, so these Sunday tournaments, I was backed. So we lived with some of the guys. So what that meant is they were paying my entry fees, and whatever I won, they would get half, and I would get half. And now, if you spent money on tournaments and didn't win anything, you'd go into makeup. So your makeup would build and build and build. So on that particular day, I was $80,000 in makeup. So the $70,000 win meant I was only $10,000 in the hole. So, so good to get out of $80,000 worth of makeup. But
So I imagine that I imagine that sounds quite crazy to people. You're effectively $80,000 in debt.
Yeah.
So to make money, you need to win a tournament for over 80,000, or a combination of tournaments for more than $80,000 to get out of this hole that you're in.
Yeah.
But like we say, when you're buying in for $8,000 worth of tournaments each day
on a Sunday,
these swings are so huge that, I guess, does your perspective of money blow out? Like, how hard is it to respect the value of money when you're having such big swings like that in real life?
Oh, totally. Like, it's one of the, you just lose it. Like, I'd go to Subway and I'd hand over $100 note and I'd get some notes and coins, and I had no idea what it was worth or what it was, you know.
Is that like why that morning after the big night when you went to the bakery and got $100 worth of bakery goods, and if you touched something you had to eat it? Is that the same sort of mentality? It's a good rule.
Yeah, like that cost me $130 to buy a feed for about 8 or 10 of us after a night on the beers. And actually, I went a bit overboard in it, but it was worth the money to create a good story. Just
for listeners, that literally, well, I wasn't there, but my recollection is, if you touched something in that purchase, you had to eat the whole thing.
Yeah. Firm but fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, my highlight of that day was actually nothing to do with food. It was actually at Steve Holloway's parents' house and pulling out a little video of him commentating some international women's football, where you may have heard the classic line, "This is a great day for women's football and women in general."
Yeah, I don't think anyone's heard that classic line apart from us three and a few others.
Yeah. Definitely need to get that out of the archives somewhere. But look, let's jump back. I've got a question just on that makeup. Like, is there any repercussions if you're in the hole for that amount of money, or is there just faith that you will make that money back and pay the backer back eventually if you play enough? Like, I'm quite stressed when I'm $2,000 in debt, and I'm in a lot more debt than that at the moment. But yeah, like that's a scary thought to me.
Yeah, so the poker world's a different world, right? So in the poker world, your word is everything. So I once loaned someone $15,000 because Chris Moorman, who was a mutual friend of Stephen Mine's, said to me, "This guy needs some money, he's good for it, I'll guarantee it." And so I shipped the guy I never met before $15,000.
Wow.
Just on the word of someone that I knew through the poker. I lent Puggy and the guys who were backing me, I lent them $50,000 to buy a house with just shipping them the money, and you know, and you never. I've got good friends in Gisborne I love my whole life. I wouldn't loan them $50.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird, because so every poker player, there's so many different sites, and you travel overseas and you're playing overseas, that even if you're a successful player with lots of money, you don't have the right money on the right site or in the right currency. There's limits, and so you end up having to do swaps, we call, where I'll send you money here, you send me money there. So your word's a thing, and so it goes to makeup as well. So if you get a black ball in poker, no one will lend you any money, no one will ship you anything, no one will help you out with entry fee to live tournament, and so your word is your bond to the, you know, and guys in their early 20s are shipping around tens and even hundreds of thousands of dollars just on a bro, I'll pay you back later. So,
and is there a ceiling to that? Like, is there like an unwritten
No. So the arrangement is usually so you're the horse, right? And so someone backs that horse, and so my only agreement with them is I won't play for anyone else. I won't play for myself until they release me from the contract, and they won't release you while you're in makeup. So my commitment is to keep playing poker for them. It gets a bit squirrely if the horse decides to give up poker, or decides to go out on their own. But that's just the agreement, and so you don't back people unless you trust them, and you know they're a good player. And
now that you're out of the game, just jumping forward a little bit, now that you're out of poker, would you still do that? Would you still loan someone $10,000 because someone said they were good for it? Or is that very specific to being in that environment?
Whoa, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, those guys, like, our friends overseas, so Puggy, 82, Neil Stewart was a good friend of mine for years, and he was the person backing me, and I've lent him 50 grand, and if he wanted the money, I'd ship it to him, and I know he'd ship it back. I probably wouldn't send it to someone I didn't know on the word of someone else, but those guys that I know and trusted, I'll definitely do that still.
Because I could do with a few grand. Actually, just maybe we can talk about that after we turn the mic off.
All right, let's get back.
So we're back day two.
Day two, 62 people left. At what point did you start to get a little bit excited? At what point did this become more than just a normal tournament?
Yeah, so I actually, as I said, I played a bit loose and aggressive towards the end of day one, and I think I got a few chips, and I was just kind of sitting comfortably, so I didn't kind of push it. I remember getting down to maybe 3 or 4 tables left. There was 25 people left, and I started thinking, actually, this is the show here. I looked around the leaderboard, and I recognised 2 or 3 names of other pros that were good players. But you've got to think, if there's 8,500 people in the tournament, there's probably 500 or 1,000 pros in the world that are good players, and 7,000 rubbish players. So there was...
And are they just playing as like pseudonyms?
Yeah.
Like Big Cock 10 and all that, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then my next question, and I apologise, I'll probably this whole episode I'll jump in and ask all sorts of questions, but like a game of Call of Duty now, is there like can you sync up with a microphone and chat shit to people, or is it totally in isolation and you're just sitting in your wherever you are in the world and you're just playing and your clicks going?
Yeah, so when I was playing, there was no video link-ups or no voice chat, but there was a text box at the table. You could type things at the table with certain words blanked out and unacceptable for usernames.
Yeah.
And
so it couldn't have been Big Cock 10.
Big Dick Daddy from Cincinnati.
It's not the only reason, Shay. But so you can talk and you can chat and you can do all that sort of stuff.
And then in the house, have you got music playing? Are you totally focused so everything needs to be silent? Or you mentioned you watched 24, but like 8 hours is a long time. Yeah,
so every poker player has playlists. Well, maybe I did and all the boys did, right? And so you have playlists for early in the day, playlists for later, you have fast, you have slow. Sometimes you need a bit of black seeds to calm down. Sometimes you want a bit of Pantera to amp things up.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own final table playlist. So Puggy, who I played with, played the Rocky soundtrack. So you'd be in the house and you just hear
not headphones, like just playing it out.
Blasting.
Wow.
We had when we lived in a house in Las Vegas that I'm sure we'll get to talk about soon. We had two songs to play if you were angry and having a bad day. So we had I'm on an Island by the Lonely Boat.
Yeah.
Jack Peralta from Brooklyn 999, and we had Chicken Fried by the Zac Brown Band, and those were just it's good feel, Shay. You've got to feel the noise. And so I had a final table playlist that was a bit of a mix of I had Make It Rain by Fat Joe and a Pantera song and Domination by Pantera. I'm going to dominate this final table.
It's such a foreign, like you two are like obviously in this. For me as a layman and maybe some of the listeners, it's such a foreign kind of a. There's similar, like don't get me wrong, there's similarities. Like I have a game day playlist for football teams that I'm involved in managing, so I can understand that. But just so different.
Yeah, it was. It's a very unique lifestyle. We were lucky because there was a house.
Hopefully
of
we
us.
get to the end of this opening story sometime soon. By the way,
There was
really captured the listener. I think
there was 5 of us living in this house, all doing the same thing. So it was kind of like a work environment in a way. You know, we all knew what each other was going through each day. We all kind of roughly finished at the same time. We would support the others if they were going.
Are you in different rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there would often be occasions where we would be in a hand with the other person, but you'd think, you'd go easy on each other, but it would be the polar opposite. You would do everything you could to win the hand, even if it meant blowing your whole stack.
Totally. One of my favourite poker memories is there was a hand on game. Remember that 6-handed tournament, maybe $120 buy-in, and we were at a house in Las Vegas with there's probably 8 of us in the house, and 4 of us in the house made the final table at the same time, and there's only 6 people at the final table, and it was a turbo, I think, which means the blinds go up fast. It's a lot of shoves, and there was just abuse flying back and forth, and there was trash talk, and someone shovel, and you ain't got it, you're full of shit, we'll go on call then, we'll see what, and it was one of the most fun experiences we've had. So in this house, Steve talked about, we all had our own bedrooms, we all had our own setup in our bedrooms, and we sit there and play, and every now and then you'd hear a boom of someone doing well. You'd hear the sound of our Welsh friend Beach punching the wall. It was a pretty regular occurrence. Yeah. He also broke the Sky remote when the All Blacks beat Wales in the last 5 minutes. But
but there is always a stage when someone was going really deep in one of these big tournaments where everyone all of a sudden was tuned in. And maybe this was at about 3 tables left, I'd say. And we all started, we would be in our own room still, but we'd have Shaun's screen on our computer, and we'd all be paying attention, and as you'd say ladder as soon as he made a pay jump, and then I guess let's talk through to 2 tables left, and then think about what's your thinking like now. We've talked about $377,000 for first. You're obviously financially pretty secure at this point. You're a successful player. Is the mindset, I'm going all out? I don't care if I bust in 18th or 19th place. I'm going to do everything I can to win all the money.
Yeah. So as you say, the payout structures are very top heavy. So with 8,500 people, the money you get for first is probably double what you get for third or fourth, right? And third or fourth is probably double eighth again. So actually, go all that way through 8,500 to get 10th is worth, and this I think it might have been worth 20 grand. So not a small amount of money, but when first is 200 and something thousand US dollars, 10th is kick in the ass. You don't want that.
That's so crazy for me to try and think about it with my own frame of reference, because I'm thinking, fuck, if I jump online and win 20 grand, I'm fucking loving life.
Yeah.
But that's just, again, that's through my lens. So
but also you're not buying in for
$8,000 a day.
Every day, so it's totally different scale.
So it is. I mean, so there's probably I remember one point there was about 25 people left, and there wasn't many good players left in this tournament. There's often these big fields, and there was a guy to the right of me that was a really aggressive player, and he was trying to run the table. And I had a few chips, and I was basically looking for a chance to take this guy on. And he was 3 betting a lot. So in poker, the first bet is the big blind. If you come in with a raise, that's the second bet, and a re-raise is a third.
I should take notes of these. You still with us?
Yeah. So anyway, so what happening is people would open the betting, he'd re-raise them, and they'd fold. Someone would make a bet, he'd re-raise, and they'd fold. And I was sitting here watching him going, this guy's full of shit. And I was talking with Puggy, who was there, and Puggy's like, yeah, let's get him. So there's a hand that folds around. I'm on the button, which is the last to act. The guy's to my right, the person to his right raises, and he 3-bets. And now in those late positions, he's full of shit, and I'm going after this guy. The problem is I've got 5-2 offsuit, and I've played.
I don't know what that means.
That means that's probably the probably loses to 97% of hands in poker.
My kind of hand.
One of the absolute worst. So I've got one of the worst hands there is, but it was just such a good spot, and I'd been sitting there planning to go after this guy. And my stack size was a perfect to shove all in. So that's called a cold 4-bet. I hadn't been in the hand. There's a raise and a re-raise. If you come in over the top, that's real strength. Yeah. Except I've got 5-2 offsuit, which is an absolute rubbish hand. And so I remember talking to Puggy, and we'd been looking for the spot. And I was going, this is the spot, Puggy. And he was going, 5-2 offsuit. and I was really nervous about it. And I kind of gave her that, look, I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. So I jammed all my chips in with absolute rubbish. Folds around to the sky, and he sits there and thinks for ages, and the longer he thinks, the more nervous I get. And ends up folding the hand, and I'm just like, that was such a... it was a big hand, because I won a few chips, but actually he stopped doing that, and I took over the table a bit, and I started re-raising, and I started dominating. So you've got to take those chances, and I'm probably a pretty conservative player by professional poker player standards, but you've got to be able to do that stuff.
So I think we talked about like the house was tuned in. I think maybe when it got down to maybe the final table, we all started migrating to your room. I guess this is when you know that this could potentially be life-changing.
Is that off-putting?
Nah, it's awesome because the boys are there, and actually what was off-putting is I had a couple of big hands that I won, and I turned around for high-five celebrations, and they're all hugging each other, and no one's got 2 seconds for me. I'm like, yeah, boys, with the hand up, nothing. They're all just hugging each other. It's like, I'm the one winning the money anyway.
So the pay jumps at this point were huge.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like every time someone got knocked out, Shaun made $20,000 or $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. When it was down to the final 3, it was literally like $100,000 every time. So Shaun wouldn't be in a hand, and 2 other people would be playing against each other, and we'd be all there, cheering them on, like, get your chips in. Someone would bust out, and we'd be like, oh my God, we just won another $100,000. So one of my strongest memories is the camaraderie we shared in that moment.
With each other more than me.
Well, yeah, with each other. We were all, there was no sort of, there was obviously a little bit of jealousy. We all wanted it to be us, but we were so happy that one of us was really like hitting the big time.
Yeah.
And you were just tuned in. And yeah, obviously the final table went quite well for you, but then I remember when it got to 3-handed, it dawned on everyone like what you'd already achieved, but there was still so far to go because we talked about those pay jumps. We're talking about $150,000, $200,000 pay jumps. So you've done all this work and you've got all this money locked up, but this is the most important part of the tournament. And how hard was it to focus in those moments?
Oh, to be honest, not really. Like it was awesome having the boys there, but like I probably in my career played, over 2 million hands of online poker. I won 250 odd tournaments, and kind of I'd played for years, and like you need a bit of luck in these big tournaments to get that. But I certainly felt like I'd done my time. I'd been deep in big tournaments, and I'd finished in the 9th and the 10th and the 12th, and you kind of just had a feeling that this is my time, and I'm gonna, I've been doing this for years, and I'm gonna make the best decisions, and I'm gonna be aggressive, and just do all those things. I remember coming to the final table. So this guy called Gutshot All In was his username that I knew was another pro, was a good player. And there's another guy that wasn't too bad, but there's kind of 3 good players at the final table and 6 not so good. So I kind of went with the strategy is I'm not going to get into hands against these 2 good players. I'm going to play against the bad players. I'm going to put pressure on them because, these are big pay jumps for me, but for people who are not professionals that are just doing it, that might play 3 tournaments on the day and spend $600 suddenly there, and they want those pay jumps. They want those $20,000 pay jumps. So I want to put pressure on them and stay away from the pros. And I remember getting down, it's a bit of a blur to be honest, Steve, but I remember the last few hands, 4 or 5 left. Like I actually, I didn't have a lot of chips, but I picked up a few good hands. I remember I had Ace Queen versus Ace Jack, which was a big favourite, and it held. I remember I got a run of good cards, and the good cards held, and suddenly we're down to the final 2.
It happened quite quickly, didn't it? And then you were down to the final 2, and talk through what happens at that stage of a tournament, because you're able to make deals and negotiate and things, aren't you? Because it's a huge pay jump. If you respect the other player's ability, you'll say, well, let's not play for $200,000. Let's not play a heads-up game for $200,000. Let's sort of take an even split and maybe play for a little bit.
Yeah, I was I think it was something like first was 280,000 US and second was 200 or something. Like it was quite a big jump. And it was me and Gutshot All In, who was the other pro at the table. And so when you do these deals, you can do an equity deal, which is you work out how many chips you've got and you chop the money evenly based on that. But if you're a good player, you can negotiate more than that. So I want more than a fair share because I'm a better player than you. Everyone thinks they're a good player and sometimes the deal doesn't get done. But in this case, he had slightly more chips than me and we were both good players. And so we did a negotiation off screen through Skype, and we agreed to. So he had slightly more chips, so we agreed to. He got 230,000 US, and I got 220,000 US. And he had slightly more chips than me, and we agreed to leave 20,000 US in the middle to play for. So you play the tournament out, and
So this is another strong memory. I remember celebrating when the deal got made.
Yeah,
we're like, holy shit, we've done it. And you went for a little. You sort of needed to clear your head. You sort of went off on a little round the house walk or something.
Yeah.
And we're like, Shaun, there's still 20,000 US here on the table to play for. Like,
Yeah.
get your fucking head in the game. That's like a lot of money. That's a fucking new car. Like, come on, get back. And I think Puggy had taken over for a few hands. Not sure if we're allowed to say that. Is that
Don't tell me on Poker Stars.
and then you sort of, you regathered yourself and you came back and you finished it off.
Yeah, I actually went outside and called my mum. She just rang up and she said, how's it going? It was a weird call. And I said, good. She said, how's life? I said, fine. Just a bit of a chat. And I said, I've done all right in poker. She went, oh yeah, how much this time? Like after big wins, get the habit of ringing your family and tell them. And I was like, $220,000. And she was like, you what? I'd had some good days and some big wins. But yeah, like my head just wasn't it. And again, remember I'd won $30,000 the day before, $220,000 then, another $20,000 on top, like doesn't.
Yeah.
Like I'd done it and I didn't. And I lost the plot a bit. I didn't care. I was just out. It was just like have a chat to the mum. Puggy. Oh yeah, you want to play the game? And and then I actually remember. It might have been you saying like what you just said. You said like you realise this is a car. Like you realise this is a. Now was this, Steve? I wanted to ask you. Was this before or after you crashed your parents' car?
What a day that was! Yeah, I rode off the parents' car, drove it into the back of a dump truck on my way to the gym. After, I think it was after.
Right after.
Yeah, and I called you and I said, Shaun, I know this has been a good day for you, but I've ridden off my car. And you're like, don't worry about it. I'm going to buy a new $30,000 Holden. You can have my car. I was like, oh, what a guy.
At what point, Between Two Beers listeners will maybe recall the Ross McKenzie episode where I think, did you ring Ross? Who rang? Did someone call Ross? And say, what are you doing? And he came down to Tauranga? Have I got that completely wrong?
I don't remember that night. I think that night, I think we just sort of celebrated in the house, didn't we? I don't know. How did you celebrate? What do you remember?
We went out to Latitude, which was
Right.
a restaurant that we used to go to at so again the poker house. The rule was if you won, you had to spend 1% of your winnings on something for the house. It was a bit of a rule that we had.
Yep.
So you go out and do something. So I had a couple of grand to spend on the house. So I took the boys out for dinner and drinks, and went down to Mt Wellington, and we had a bit of a steamy Tuesday night.
Yeah, must have just been so euphoric.
Are you telling people in the bar what's just happened, or are you kind of just keeping that to yourself?
I can't remember. I was written off. Just won 200 grand. I was on it. So
what do you remember from the I'm interested in the morning after, because whenever I have a really good day or something good happens, you kind of wake up the next morning and you sort of, you snap out of your sleep and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that happened yesterday. Oh, what a good day.
What constitutes a good day for you these days when you wake up like that now?
Well,
Scoring the winner against North Shore.
well, look, you said it. Yeah, playing 45 minutes for Melville.
Yeah.
Constitutes a good day.
Sunday was a good day.
Sunday, woke up Sunday feeling pretty good. But when you wake up after winning $377,000, and that's your first memory, you must have been buzzing for days after that, weeks.
yeah, I was. It's hard to process. Like I didn't know what to.
Did you go, I'm not going to play another tournament for a month? Or do you go straight back to work, as you guys call it?
Yeah, everyone's different. I have had found over the years if I'd had a big win, if I played shortly afterwards, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Because, so these Sunday tournaments, Monday New Zealand time, they're big dollars. During the week, a big tournament might be winning $3,000 or $5,000 US. So when you've come off winning, and I'd just go to a tournament and not care and blow the chips off. And so I decided to take a week off and just enjoy the break. And a month later, I hadn't started playing again. It's a pretty social month. Threw a few parties and bought a few people a few drinks and had a good time. But
I just want to continue on this vein because I feel like, and we're going to get into the highs and lows of the life of professional poker, but when you win a big tournament like that, does it give you enough of a safety net to not make you motivated to keep playing and get better? Because and I'm not sure if these timelines quite sync up, but I sort of remember you playing a lot before that win, and maybe after it you didn't really play that much anymore.
Yeah.
Is that a fair?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely, and even probably the 2 or 3 months before that was some of the best I'd ever played. I'd had that $70,000 win. I won a bunch of other tournaments when I was on a real tear, and it just got to the point where, I just needed a break. And I'd been playing a lot, and I was a bit burnt out, and I was playing well, and I had learnt from the past after some of my other big wins. I'd gone and given half it back, because you're just not playing your best. So, but I definitely never. That was probably 2010, and so for the next couple of years, I definitely played and made money, but never reached those heights that I had again.
Okay, well, that's a long intro story, but
well, it is,
hopefully...
and actually, we never even talked about actually winning the tournament, so we could just finish the story off. Yeah. so after being on the deck, I came back, and I remember you saying to me, mate, it's 20 grand, this is a car. And I'd had the same car for years, and I thought, actually, that's right. And I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to play heads up, and that motivated me to be, if I win, I'm going to buy a car with this, and if I'm not allowed to buy a car, I'm going to drive the same car.
You're welcome.
So Stevie put that in my head, maybe knowing he's going to crash his car that night, and actually he got my old car, so there you go. So I remember coming in, I remember I had a slight chip disadvantage, and I was playing pretty conservatively, and this guy was just taking me apart, and I remember getting down to a 3-1 or 4-1 chip lead, and I had that feeling of kind of, I'm losing anyway, I've got the money, who cares, I'm just going super aggressive. I remember, I don't know if you remember us talking, I was like, I'm not folding the next 3 hands. So I don't care, like, if he picks up a hand, good on him, but I hadn't played back in a much, and I just went bang, 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 and just started pushing back and just went super aggressive. And I really changed gears. I went from pretty passive and tight to pretty aggressive, and then came back and won and beat, Gutshot all in was a good player, a ranked player and a known player. So actually, in hindsight, I'm glad I kind of finished the tournament and I won it, and I didn't realise at the time, but there was also, you got a watch, so you got some sort of European, which was worth about €2,000. You got a jacket, watch with your name engraved. There's all the stuff I didn't really realise that was cool as well.
Do you have the jacket?
Yeah, it's in Gisborne. It's in, my dad pulls it out when he does gardening every now and then. PokerStars Scoop Champs, and I've still got the watch somewhere as well with Jay Hickey Jr., which was my username on PokerStars.
Good. At the time, it was the biggest win in New Zealand online poker history. Is it still? Has someone overtaken it?
Yeah, no, so there was a guy, Simon Watt.
Yeah.
So he won about 600 grand a few years after that, and I heard
that was live though, wasn't it?
No, I thought he won one of those big online tournaments, or maybe it was someone else. But I did hear about another Kiwi guy a few years later that had a bit of 600 grand win.
That must eat at you because you're a competitive guy.
Well, I also, so do you know one of the things that eats at me still? So in poker, there's a thing called a triple crown, and a triple crown is within the space of 1 week, you've got to win 3 tournaments on 3 different sites, and each tournament needs 100 people, and it needs a $10,000 prize pool. Right? And it's actually quite hard to do because not many of the sites are that big with that bigger tournaments, and it's hard to win a tournament with several hundred players. And so actually, on that day, because I'd won the party poker, the on game, and then the PokerStars, I won a triple crown in a 24-hour period, which is something not many people do. And because one of the triple crown leagues was so big, I had a chance of being the biggest triple crown of all time. And when the points went up, I went on the side, I was second of all time. So some guy had won 500 grand in another tournament, and I was gutted. I was like, but I consoled myself. He actually took 5 days to win his, and I was like, 5 days. I was like, so the biggest single day triple crown in history. But yeah, it's amazing how little things. I was really pissed off about that.
Yeah. So I want to get into that now. I want to get into your character a little bit, and we've mentioned him a few times already. But Puggy is a Scottish guy who was kind of like the father of the poker crew.
Are we allowed to say his real name, or we're not allowed
Neil
to?
Stewart. Neil Stewart. Puggy82 was his screen name. Great guy.
Witness protection program or something like that.
Yeah. But he does financial management for people, so if they knew his background, I don't know.
Yeah, real fatherly vibe. And he sort of looked after us at a time when we were all a bit useless in our own ways.
The lumberjack now, isn't he?
Yeah. So he was the backer. So he was kind of bankrolled us, and I think we can talk about. So you won all that money, but you didn't actually win all of that. You didn't have 100% of yourself in that tournament, did you? So what was your backing deal with Puggy at that time?
Yeah, so I had a pretty unusual backing deal. So usually you were either backed or not. And I had a deal where I played for myself during the week with my own money, and the smaller tournaments spending about $3,000 a day, and then I played just for them on the Sundays. So that was the big tournaments, but the high variance tournaments, which is why I got an 80 grand of makeup. But actually, I'd had a good run and I made them quite a bit of money. So about a month before I negotiated, so usually it's a 50-50 split between the backer and the horse, and I negotiated a 60-40, so I got 60%. So you didn't usually get a better than 50-50 deal, and I'd put some results up and kind of screw Puggy down of, mate, come on, I was kind of, I'll just go and do it my own. He's like, all right then, all right. And so, yeah, so I got 66. I got 60% of all of that money went across those 3 days.
So that's a part of the story that kind of gets forgotten too, that while you're winning all this money, Puggy's winning all this money too.
He's a very, very happy man.
He's winning hundreds of thousands of dollars as well. So
yeah. Well, and I guess to your earlier question, Shay, just goes back to the trust thing, right? So from a legal point of view, the money's in my account. I don't have to transfer him a cent. So he's trusting me that, so when I'm an 80k makeup, he's trusting me that I'll play my way out of it. I had to transfer him, I think, $110,000 or something, whatever it was. And he just trusted me that I'd do it and shipped it over a few weeks. And
I'll do the same. I will.
So Puggy's the money man of the house. Everyone's playing off his money. He's providing the safety net. I was on a 50-50 deal where he would pay for all of my buy-ins. I was playing for about $3,000 a day. He would cover it all. I'd give him 50% of my winnings. So
what's the biggest win you ever had?
I had a day where I won 2 tournaments, one for 20,000, one for 7,000.
Yeah, that was a good
27,000.
That was a good day.
That was a good day.
I remember that day.
Yeah, that was a good day. So Puggy, I've asked Puggy to give a summary of Shaun Goldsbury, the person, because he's quite a complex character. So this is what Puggy said. He says, Shaun Goldsbury is quite the complicated man. Loud, brash, opinionated, exceptionally bright, but has a limited attention span and a talent for turning any friendly game into a fight to the death. Over the years, he has thrown himself at countless projects, put in the hard yards until he mastered it, then just walked away onto the next one. Volleyball, soccer, and of course poker. It was no surprise when Shaun was offered the first job he applied for when he left poker behind. What is more of a surprise is that he's still in it. That is of course not strictly true, as he has been promoted countless times throughout the last few years. Is that for his talent, or have the Genesis decision makers recognised that without constant change, the man-child that is Shaun Goldsbury may have left them years ago? For all the jokes that I can make about Shaun Goldsbury on far too many a topic to cover here, the one thing that stands out is that he's incredibly successful in everything he does. Annoyingly so. Shaun Goldsbury, annoyingly successful. I think that's the best way I can put it. So I sort of want to start at the beginning now. Puggy has articulated it well. You are very intelligent. You got a lot going for you. How did you end up as a poker player?
Wow. So it's actually a football connection here, little known football connection. So back in the Tauranga City National League days, played with a guy called Tony Lockhead, who was All Whites and Phoenix player. So Tony actually went to college in the States, and he was there in 2003 when the poker boom happened. So in 2003, a guy called Chris Moorman was an accountant, put $80 on a tournament, won a seat into the $10,000 World Series of Poker main event in Las Vegas, and won it for $2.5 million. So that started the poker boom. Everyone got into online poker, and Tony was over there. So Tony would come back from the States and bring a poker set. So he was one of the first guys in New Zealand to do that. And at the time, I was playing beach volleyball with his brother Jason Lockhead, and we'd spend the summer doing the beach pro tour, playing volleyball, and at night we'd play poker. So we kind of played poker, had several years playing poker, got quite good. And then I, on the beach tour one day, so you think poker's a good job, how's this for a job? Met a guy who coached the Swedish girls volleyball team, beach volleyball team, dated one of the players, and played cash games on the side. So we went to go to a players' party for the beach volleyball pro tour, and this guy was 4-tabling cash games, so playing 4 tables at once on his laptop, and I was just transfixed. I was like, what is this? This is amazing. And we went to a party, and as Steve knows, I'm prone to do sometimes, I got him in the corner and just chewed his ear off for about 2 hours. And I just had a million questions on, like, well, how do you get the money on? And what does it work? And how do you know who you're playing against? And one of the things he said to me was, he said, the game's not that hard, but you want to study a bit. So being my personality, I took it a bit extreme. So I went home and I ordered 20 books from Amazon, literally.
Were there 20 poker books?
Yeah, I just Googled poker, and the first, it was Doyle Brunson's Super System, it was Annie Duke's book, I got stuff from, and I got all these videos, and I literally, so it was end of January, I'd spend a month reading books and watching videos, and just learning and just studying, and I had a little notebook, and I'd write down strategies and tactics, and then in the middle of March, I had, my mates were away, and I had a volleyball, I was working in the weekends, and I thought, well, I'll put $200 online and play online. I was ready for it, and I'm so competitive, I was like, if I lose this, I'm not putting any more money on, I don't have a gambling problem, I don't need to ban myself from casinos or anything.
There's a story there for those not aware, is that I had to ban myself from a casino. I think I might have mentioned it on the Michael Guy, the podcast, if you want to go back and listen.
Yeah, I think our mutual friend Ben Lewis was a groom at my wedding. I think he's in that gang as well. So anyway,
banned himself from something else.
Yeah, I was so competitive. I was just like, if I lose this, I'm gone. So I put $200 on, and I never put another cent on the site. So everything I won, I built up from that $200 over years and years, and went from there.
So went from there though. Was there a day you remember making a firm decision that this was a career path you were going to follow?
Yeah, and it was a ridiculous day. So that was in March, maybe 2007, and I was working in volleyball for Volleyball Bay of Plenty, and I was over it. I've been doing that for 5 years, and traditionally that's about my limit before I get bored and go and do something else. And I remember going away and having a Christmas holiday, and I remember coming back and going, I'm going to play for a week. 6 tabling tournaments, and this is my test to see if I can make it as a professional poker player. And I went, which, as you and I know, Steve, with sample size and data, that's ridiculous. And I thought, well, if I make money, I'll do this. And I played a $100 tournament ultimate bet and won it for $3,500. And I made $2,000 US that week. And I thought, and at the time I was earning $50,000 a year working in sport. There's, we've all done that around this table. We know it doesn't pay that well. And I thought, brilliant, I'm a professional poker player now. And I was running the national volleyball champs in March, so I couldn't play for 2 months, and I did that. And then after that, I went, I'm done with volleyball. Let's go play poker.
Wow. And so, how does that progress? Did you have losing weeks or months to start with, or was it just win, and you were away?
No, it was tough at the time. So I went down to Otago, and my girlfriend at the time, who led to my full talk name, Katie Pie. Just a little tip for the listener: don't name your screen names after girlfriends,
unless you're pretty confident it's going to work out.
It was a full-on attempt to interest. She hated how much I played poker rather than spending time with her, and so I thought I'd name after her and showed her, and it was cool, and it didn't go down very well. It didn't have the desired effect, and I lived with that for years afterwards, even after we broke up. So anyway, so she was at Otago Uni doing her masters, and so I would have been about 26 or 27, whatever, I guess. And so so I went down to Otago. We lived in a student flat, so I paid $140 a week, so I had no costs. Thought I'd try and make it as a poker player. I probably made $500 a week, maybe $1,000 a week in New Zealand, and kind of built my bankroll, but didn't kind of go anywhere very fast. I wasn't playing enough tables, and I was playing too low stakes, and so that first year was a pretty hard grind, and it kind of, I battled away. And then towards the end of the year, I remember winning a tournament of Bowdog for $2,500 US, and that was a big step. I actually remember having a conversation with her saying, I don't know if I'm cut out for this poker thing, I don't know if I can make it. And then the next day I won this tournament, and
well, that goes out the window.
Yeah, it's sunny life. As Steve said, the ups and downs of being a professional poker player. One day from giving it up to the next day. I love this. This is my life now.
Or was there a day where you just went, I'm a professional now? Like, is there an earning threshold mentally?
No, it's just I love the volleyball job, and I worked really hard. But like that, running a national tournament with, we had 140 teams and 1,500 kids for a week across 20-something courts, and I was the only paid employee. Like, that's a full-on job, and I got to the end of that, and I was over that job, and I'd had enough, and I was burnt out on volleyball, and I just quit. And I went, well, I'll go and play a bit of poker and live this uni lifestyle. What's the worst case scenario? Is I get a job in 6 months. I've got a degree, and I had work experience before, and so you can. There's no threshold. There's no.
Yeah.
It was more I decided to quit work.
One of the challenging things about being a professional poker player or doing it for a career is you can have a really good day at work. You can have the best day at work that you can possibly do and do everything right and lose thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And there's not necessarily a correlation between playing well and winning money. Were there times along the journey that you came close to packing it all in after a series of bad luck or runs?
Oh, no, I think that first year I had that moment about 6 months in when I thought about packing it in, but I was always good at bankroll management and game selection and choosing the right tournaments, and I kind of, and actually in my 5 years I probably had one losing month. So I had a month actually after Kate and I broke up where I dropped $12,000 US in a month. That was the only real losing month I had. Apart from that, I was kind of break even or make a little bit of money even the worst month. So I never really had a big downswing or a big kind of losing streak that made me think about it. I think when I wasn't winning much and the times were getting a bit tough, I would drop down the States and I'd play tournaments that I used to play at a lower level and win money and build back up. I think I saw a few guys get into trouble because they were, the ego thing takes hold and they start losing and they want to double down, so they play higher and higher in bigger tournaments and just end up blowing it. But I had the self-control to not do that.
What made you a successful poker player? What are the traits? What are the most important? Is it a photographic memory? Is it discipline? Is it just work ethic? Were you prepared to put in the yards to study and learn when others weren't, or were the games just really soft at that point in time?
Yeah, to be honest, the games were super soft. Like I started playing during the GFC and a lot of people lost their jobs and poker was booming and it was a lot easier than it is these days. The guys that are doing it these days got to be much better than I was when I started playing poker back in the day. I think probably, I don't know, that's a tough question. I mean, I think probably only half it is on actually how good you are at poker. Like the other half is on, what games you choose, what days you play or don't play, your bankroll management, the decisions away from what you actually make. And even on the poker side, I think the most common misconception I see is people kind of think, how good are you at poker? And when people ask that question, I feel like they imply, when you're playing at your best, like what are your big bluffs and you're running a move on some person, you're doing something. But actually, the way I looked at it is I played about 3,000 or 4,000 hands a day. If you took my best 10 hands of that day, they're not any better than anyone else's. But if you take my worst 10 hands, they're not that bad. So I was good at not making mistakes and not doing stupid things and not losing money. And actually, that's much more important than the big flashy moves at the top, if that makes sense.
You mentioned when you started, you bought 20 books. Did that continue? Did you continue to study as hard as you were playing? Was that important?
Yeah, I bought more books, I watched more videos, I joined Poker X Factor, which was a training site, and I got lessons, and I went on forums and I discussed hands with people, and the game always evolves as well. So even if you're a good winning player, if you keep doing the same thing, eventually you'll be a losing player. So you've got to keep evolving yourself as well. So that constant, learning, discussing and challenging and debating, was staying ahead of the game was part of it.
Can I ask a question? Is it harder to play poker in real life with real people around the table or on the line with just usernames? What's the difference?
So
I'll ask two questions, sorry.
And in any poker decision you make, there's probably I wrote an article for a magazine one time. There's probably 20 factors that would change your decision. Being 19 things exactly the same, the 20th is different and you change your decision. A physical read or a live tell look at someone is one of those factors and it's the most unreliable. It's actually about your chip stack, their chip stack, position at the table, previous history with the player, pot odds, all of that sort of thing. Part of the reason I was able to play a lot of tables is I developed a style that was very simplistic. So I stayed away from marginal spots that were difficult and I just went for highly profitable spots and I stayed away from danger. So it didn't actually translate that well to live play where you've got to chase those marginal spots and make good decisions. So for example, if you're familiar with Texas Hold'em, once the flop comes down the 3 cards, I didn't play a lot of flops. I was either folding or raising before that. And once you get those cards and the hand unfolds, that's harder to play. And when you're playing 18 tables, you just don't have time for that. So I developed a style that was very simplistic and very efficient and probably had a lower win rate per table, but you multiply a slightly lower number by 18 rather than by 12 and you make more money from it.
When were you first a member of Mensa? Because I'm hearing you speak and it's super analytical. And I'm hearing you speak in those terms and I'm thinking about my own self and I would never look at something that analytically. And that's just probably the way my brain's wired. So at school and stuff, were you maths and science guy? I was English guy. That was my strength, reading books and writing stories and stuff. But
yeah.
It's amazing different minds.
Yeah, I did. I actually listened to the Joe Edwards podcast he did a while ago too, and I heard he got 97% in School C English, which I was a bit gutted about because I only got 80%, but I did it in 4th form, so part of it. But I did get 90% in School C maths and 4th form as well, so that was part of it. So I developed maths at school. At university, I did maths and computer science.
Yeah.
And I've always been good with numbers and fast with numbers and analytical, and my job and my work is all around that sort of stuff now. So, and actually the guys that we played with, like Steve, was a bit unusual, probably being a journalist or a communications by training. So we talked about Puggy. He did maths at university.
Yeah.
Beej, who was in the house, was a maths teacher. The other Neil or Ton who was there, I think he was an accountant by training. So most of the guys there were
numbers guys.
Yeah, and a lot of the American guys I was mates with had been to med school, or numbers guys, or science guys.
But did that love of numbers, was that from primary school or?
Yeah, it was from always. I've just had that sort of brain, and that's just how I've been wired.
Yeah.
So 5 years as a professional poker player, like we mentioned, after the big win, you started to perhaps not play so much. Was that just burnout? Was part of it burnout that you were over the game? I remember personally from my experience, I kind of thought as playing poker for a living as the best job ever until I didn't. And I sort of remember making a deal with myself that the day that I wake up and I don't look forward to playing poker is the day that I should get out, because it's a kind of a zero-sum game, isn't it? You're not really improving your career prospects, you're not helping anyone, you're not getting much out of it apart from just playing this game and potentially making money.
Yeah.
So if you're not actually enjoying doing that, then it's the time. For 90% of the time that I was a professional poker player, I loved playing poker and looked forward to doing it every day. But then as soon as I got into that 10%, I was like, right, I need to do something else. Was that similar for you?
Oh, totally. I mean, I think a common thread for me is like whatever I do it 100%. Like I'm just fully into it, and I'll give it a go, and I'll do it until I'm over it, and I'll thrash it to death. And once I've done it, then I'm done, and I'll walk away. So with volleyball, like I played and I coached and I worked in it, and I did it for 5 years full on, and then I just kind of walked away, and I was just over it and went into the poker. And poker was the same. Like I was probably the last 18 months, I wasn't really into it. I didn't play much. I made a little bit of money, but not heaps. But actually, by the time I was emotionally ready to leave and went to Genesis, I've never played a day of online poker since. Wow. So people often ask me about that, but I play a few live tournaments for fun, but I did it to death, and my time was up, and I could have quit a year before, but actually my first manager at Genesis, a guy called Ken Gibb, I talked to him, and he said, no, that's just your personality. Like, you won't walk away if there's still something to achieve or you want to do something, and by the time you walk away, you're done, and it's a chapter and it's closed. I'm on to the next thing in my life, and I don't look back, or I don't miss it. To be honest, I miss the boys, and I miss hanging out. I don't miss the low patches and not knowing where your money's from, and sitting in a house by yourself for a lot of the day. And
it's also a time thing, though, isn't it? Because if you're going to win, if you're going to enter a tournament, like I don't know if we gave this sort of background, but we used to play multi-table tournaments. So we would get up early in the morning, 5-6 a.m. to get in line with the American markets. We'd play 30, 40 tournaments a day, and if you were to win one, you'd be playing for 8, 9, 10 hours, depending on how big the tournament was. So to be prepared to last the distance, you need to clear your schedule, because you don't want to have some commitments that you're kind of, maybe I need to try to force the issue here so that I can go to whatever appointment I've got. So you don't really have that anymore, do you? When you go back into a 40, 50, 60, whatever, you'll do an 80-hour work week. Yeah. The last thing you probably want to do on your day off is sit in front of a computer for 8, 9, 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing I want to do is get up at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning and log on at 6 o'clock and play 18 tables and do that for it. Like I'm mentally exhausted after work, and I'm working hard and committed there, and I just don't, it's not, I don't have the appetite to do it, and I'll do a disservice to myself with what I'm doing at work to do that. And like I say, I'm pretty single. Like whatever I'm doing it properly, and I've done poker and that's over. So I've got no interest in it.
We are going to talk about your transition, but I just want you to reflect. And I sort of spoke to you the other day, and you're like, well, I've never actually reflected on my time as a professional poker player. You did it for 5 years. You've proved that if you'd gone obviously you were super successful as a professional poker player, over 2 million in winnings across a number of different sites. But you've proved that you can be successful in another walk of life. When you look back at those 5 years, was that a good decision? Was that the right path to take? Or how do you reflect on that time?
It's getting deep, Stephen. I don't regret it at all. Like, it was an awesome time, and I made some good money, and I met some awesome people. I travelled overseas. I played live tournaments, and went to Italy, went to Las Vegas all the time, played live tournaments in Australia and other places around the world, and met heaps of awesome people, and I had heaps of awesome times, and don't regret any of that. I think one of the downsides of it, I came back and I was kind of at Genesis, and I was a 35-year-old analyst, single, and not married, and family, and didn't own a house and all that sort of stuff. So I was kind of I felt like I was a bit behind on life almost, and it was enjoyable, but it was time to kind of grow up a bit, I think. And I think, we also had talked before the podcast about why I started playing poker in the first place. So I guess the version I gave you is the version I usually tell people around, I was sick of the job and I wanted to do money and stuff. But actually, the real version I don't talk about very often. But so when I was coaching volleyball, there was a kid called Sarah McLean that I used to coach. And so she was 19 and she just died one day. And it was literally like, she was at uni, she was a black belt in karate, she was a New Zealand volleyball rep. Woke up she was home at the Mount. Woke up 7 a.m, went out, let the dog up, went back to bed, and her parents came at 7:30 and she wasn't breathing. And her dad, Dave, was a paramedic, ambulance driver, and her mum was a nurse, and they resuscitated, couldn't do it. And to this day, they still don't know what happened. They suspect some heart condition and that I've been to a lot of funerals in my family and stuff, but a funeral of someone of that age, and the church was packed, and it was that hit me quite hard. And she was an awesome kid. Like, she's one of those kids that, those people in sports teams that they bring the energy. Like at the end of every training, she was always like, one more serve, one more rep, wanted to keep going. Super competitive. Like I would say to her, like, Sarah, you need to come down, you're too competitive. And coming from me, that's I don't say that to many people in the world. But yeah, and actually that was around the time I was trying to make this big life choice, and that kind of made me go, the attitude I just talked to you comes from that, because it was kind of like, if that can happen to her, literally any of us anytime can go. So like, whatever you do it because you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, go and do something else. And I've had times in my life with shitloads of money, times in my life I've been broadcast without two coins to rub together, and I've had happy times in both times and sad times in both. I mean, doesn't matter, right? You've just got to enjoy what you do and go hard at it.
So what was the moment? Was there a day when you decided no more poker? I'm done. I'm getting all my money off these sites and I'm just going to get back into the real world? Or how did you arrive at that decision?
Yeah, I remember that day actually. Like, I'd been getting sick of it for a while, and I remember I had a flat in Birkenhead, and had a little room downstairs. And see, it's one thing when you've got a house of poker players at the Mountain, you're living the life, and then we went to Las Vegas and we played in a house there. And I'm sitting in a flat in Birkenhead. I'm the only poker player. Everyone's living a normal life, and I'm a bit isolated and a bit alone. And I remember getting up and saying, I'm going to play on this Saturday. So I got up and started playing 6 a.m, and it was kind of a rainy day. Comes at 9 o'clock, and all my flatmates are coming in, and my cousin Matt, that I used to live with, that Steve, coming in. They're all like off to the beach, and it's a sunny day, and I'm just sitting there going like, why am I wasting my life sitting in this dark room in a flat in Birkenhead, and I don't enjoy this, and everyone's out having fun, and it's just not fun anymore. And it was in December, and I just went, yeah, I'm done. And I finished that session unregistered for the tournaments, hadn't started yet. Started applying for jobs.
So this is where I'm going to start building into the transition. And yeah, I want to touch on that. I mean, a lot of times we talk about these podcasts, talking about things that perhaps we wouldn't normally talk about unless there was a microphone here. But we lived together in Queenstown, me and you and my now wife Bon, who was my girlfriend at the time, and we lived with Moorman, who's gone on to be one of, if not the most successful online professional.
Yeah, I think over 10 million US winnings online poker.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
I remember at the house we had at the Mount.
Is he good for lending people money?
He was the guy that said ship the guy 15 grand, and I was happy to do it. So I remember there were two main sites, Full Tilt and PokerStars. I remember seeing him one day, and it was on his Full Tilt site, and I had a look over his shoulder. He had 400 grand US in there. And I was like, what on earth are you doing? And he's like, mate, there's nothing. Check out this one. Opens PokerStars. It was over 800. So he's got 1.2 million on two sites just sitting there online. Like, the kid was...
Yeah, let's do a little Moorman segue, because I think it's nuts that we lived with the guy who's the most successful online tournament poker player of all time.
Yeah.
And I remember we lived in that Queenstown. We had 3 adjacent apartments, and there was 9 of us, and it was just a great time in my life. But he was like a savant, wasn't he? He had a photographic memory. He
was a what? Sorry?
Savant.
What does that mean?
Like specifically tuned in to exactly maths and memory, and he was on a different wavelength.
Rain Man.
Yeah, yes. Poker, he wasn't very good in other parts of life. I think he would be the first to admit he would forget his passport on the way to the airport, and he was signed into about 3 gyms. Someone was using his Sky subscription from about 3 years ago. He was just kind of a bit of a scatterbrain in other parts of life, but in poker, he was an absolute genius. And he would play every day. Like, his work ethic was insane. And he was on a different... And we talked about he would win tournaments. I think he won a tournament for $200,000 when we were there. He would often win tournaments for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and it wouldn't really have an impact on him because he had such a large stable of horses or people playing under his money that he would have $100,000 swings without even playing. So it was just this insane sort of scenario where me and Bon were sort of, grinding by, trying to survive, trying to live the life, but not quite there. Shaun was, at this point, sort of almost totally detached from poker and playing with one of the greatest poker minds the world's ever known. And it was just this insane sort of scenario. And when you reflect on it, it's like, that was crazy. But yeah, those money swings were crazy. That's insane money. You know? And another one of our DJ won a tournament for $200,000 when we were in Queenstown. $200,000 US.
He was. So the difference between me and Moorman and poker. So to answer your earlier question, so I was good at playing against bad players, and I was good at figuring out where the bad players were and how I play against them. Right, but when I played against the top guys in the world, I just, like in the big tournament we talked about, I just avoided them, focused on playing against the bad players and made money that way. Moorman was good at playing against the best players in the world, and he'd beat them all. He was just an absolute freak. I'll share 2 Moorman stories with you, which I don't know if you've heard these, Steve, but one of my best nights in Las Vegas ever was going to watch him in a World Series event, and he was playing live poker, and he got second or third for $800,000 US. And so 10 o'clock Friday night, we just go out. We'd been drinking, watching him, and we were already quite cut. We went out on a bend down. I got home at 9:30 on Saturday night. So, it was a good session, and Moorman paid for the lot and more, and we were all playing poker, and he was playing for it, and he was just, there's about 20 of us. It wasn't a small crew. I also, not long after that, he rang up the house in Las Vegas one morning. He's like, we've been out in the beers. He's like, have you seen my backpack? And we're like, no, I don't know. He's like, I can't find it, eh? And we're like, oh, that's fine. And he's like, yeah, there's $60,000 in it. And I'm like, you what? He'd had $60,000 in poker chips and cash because he had all these horses he was backing, and he'd just been on the piss and left the backpack somewhere. And so he's ringing around all the boys trying to find the backpack. Like,
it's just like a hangover.
Like that level you talked about with the money I was talking about. Like, I was that with him. He was just a different level from me again. He was just, it was crazy. It was a crazy time in my life that even now it doesn't seem real.
It doesn't actually seem real.
No,
though.
it doesn't seem real.
When you're both talking these sums, which just seem ludicrous to me, that people are winning that. So I wouldn't say effortlessly, but like, it just doesn't seem like I don't know how to kind of frame it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, Steve, it's not a service or it's not a product. You're just kind of getting up and you're playing a game and you're winning all this money.
Well, and what is so one of the things I noticed about pro poker players is you're competing every day. So even when you're a pro athlete, you don't compete every day. You compete on the weekend, and you go to the gym and maybe compete with yourself, and you go to training. But it's not. You're literally, you wake up every day and you're competing for your living, right? And you have to love competition and enjoy it. And Puggy gives me a bit of shit about my competitive nature. He's not any different. Beach takes it to another level. Steve never backs down from a challenge and likes to beat people and things like it. You have to enjoy it, and you have to like being in competition and wanting to win. It's a real big part of it.
Yeah. I'm going to get back to where I was going. So it was the transition. Nice little Chris Moorman segue. That's we'll put some photos. We've got some great photos of Moorman with millions of dollars around him. Anyway, we continue on. So. Yeah, what I was getting at is I want to get to you at Genesis, but I want to contrast, and I think it's important to try to paint a picture. And this isn't being disrespectful because I'm going to get to the big success you've been. But that time in Queenstown, you were a guy who would spend every day lying on a couch playing Plants v Zombies. We would all go out to the bars. You would stay home. Like I said, I don't know what was going on. I know you were in a dark period of your life. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was depression or you just lost focus or lost drive. I think you were in a long distance relationship. Like, things just weren't quite clicking. You'd have like little tins of tuna that you'd eat for lunch, and you'd just like move your mouse so you wouldn't actually have to move off the couch, and you could just play Plants vs Zombies on the screen. And I remember just thinking, like, man, like, I love Shaun, but he can be a piece of shit at times. Like, fucking hell, what a waste. So I want to contrast that with the start at Genesis. And you moved to Auckland, and I remember you trying to play poker for a little bit. I knew it wasn't quite the way, and I knew you needed to get back into the real world. But the concern was you'd been out of work for so long. You'd been out of the workforce for this big hole in your CV, 5 or 6 years. So you took this analyst position at Genesis Energy, started at the bottom. And straight away, it was like a change. As soon as, I think the first day, whenever I saw you, it was like a change in personality. You'd, for the first time in probably 5 years, you'd put a collared shirt on and you'd shine your shoes and you'd iron your, I don't know if you'd iron your pants, but there was a real change. And it was insane how quickly and how intensely your personality changed. I would have said during those dark times, you lacked ambition. I was like, I don't know what Shaun's going to do with himself. But now, fast forward, one of the biggest success stories in probably Genesis. You've had 7 promotions in 6 years or something like that. It's like started from the bottom, and now you're on the executive board, answering directly to the CEO. So what do you reflect on? Do you remember that period, and how do you contrast that?
I'm trying to find a flaw in the story you told and something I can argue against, but it's actually pretty much exactly what it was like. It was literally chocolate milkshakes from the 24/7 store, Plants VZs on the couch. Yeah, well, it was just that period. Like, I'd made shitloads of money at poker. I didn't really need to work. I played a bit, but I was a bit bored by it, and I didn't really have anything to do or to focus on, and I was a bit all over the show. My main point of existence was for the Sunday football tournament with the Alter Angle Shooters, as our team was called, where we go down and get into scrap with some big Brazilian guys. But that was pretty much, and we'd go out and have a few beers every now and then, but even that didn't interest me. So it was just a bit of a lack of direction, a lack of interest, and I didn't want to do anything else, but I didn't want to play poker, and I didn't really, and this was probably 2011, and this time, and ended up going overseas just to try and break it up, and actually that helped. I think just went to Vegas for a bit and we lived in Switzerland and played, and I did better playing over there, but I think that was, it was a tough time, and I wish I could argue with some of what you said, but it's all absolutely true, unfortunately.
So Genesis, you've decided you're done with poker. Was it a concern, this gap in your CV, or did you think it would work to your advantage that you could, if you got in an interview, you could sell that the skills you'd developed by being super successful in poker could translate into other jobs?
Yeah, so I did a skills-based CV, which basically means I had my poker right at the end. So I took the approach of, look, I've read a lot of CVs now as part of my job. I took the approach of, in the first half a page, you know whether you like the person or not. And I'd worked when I was playing at the Mount. I'd worked for Trustpower for 4 years. So I had a degree. I'd been an analyst in the electricity industry. The job I applied for was a job I'd literally done before, 10 years earlier. And I basically put, my university education, my work experience there, a bit of the volleyball coaching for a different, and then by the very end I had professional poker player. And one of the, actually my uncle who works in one of the banks gave me a piece of advice. So I left out some of my sports stuff and I wasn't sure about the poker stuff. And he kind of said, just put it all in, because people like successful people. And actually, if you look at your CV, what it demonstrates is whatever you do, you're successful at it and you work hard at it and you'll do it. And so I kind of put in a bunch of, National League and New Zealand volleyball team and a bunch of things. And I kind of hoped by the time they got to the end that they'd seen my electricity experience and they'd seen my university qualifications and went, they'd seen my 3-year degree that took me 4 years to get at Waikato. And, I know a lot about the hilly. And actually, interesting, I didn't get offered the job. So I went for the job, interviewed quite well. There was a couple of questions that I just bombed. I didn't really know what I was doing. And they've since told me they decided to interview. There's another person at Contact Energy Wellington that was more relevant industry experience. which is corporate speak for they didn't trust this poker playing bum. So they rang me up and said, no, you didn't get the job, and I was quite devastated. And then they rang me back the day after, and the guy in contact had used the job offer to leverage a pay rise in his current company decided to stay. So then they rang me back. And so second chance saloon, and I got in at Genesis.
And what were the skills specifically that transitioned from poker to your new role? And what were the skills that helped you climb the ladder? So I started as an analyst, and I was a risk analyst in the risk team, and I guess I having been a professional poker player for 5 years, I felt I knew a little bit about risk and as a concept, and I talked my way into getting the opportunity. I think when I started there, I remember the trading manager, so we had trading roles making live decisions in real markets, and people that analysts that have a good analytical brain, like Shay talked about, actually making a decision in real time is a different skill, and a lot of the guys who are good analysts can't make a decision under pressure with no time. And when they heard about my poker play, the trading manager went, well, actually, you can clearly do that. So they got me up into a trading role. So I went up into a trading role, and it was the same skills as poker. It was incomplete information, very little time to act, make a decision, and you can make or lose a company a lot of money doing that. So I did that for probably a year and a half, and that was a really big step and big foundational role. I kind of then, with all my sports stuff I'd done, I'd been in a lot of leadership roles. I'd been captain of Tauranga City in the Northern League, and I'd coached New Zealand volleyball teams, and I wanted to be in leadership positions, and so kind of set my career sights on management roles, and started 3 analysts reporting to me in a very junior management role, and then was kind of successful, and over time got another promotion, and over time got another one, and just kind of worked my way out from there. Yeah, I was talking to Shay today about what makes someone climb the ladder so quickly. And I think you tick a lot of boxes. I think I was reading, I don't know if it was Malcolm Gladwell or a Freakonomics or something. Tall men, more highly featured and sort of executive
less of a ladder to cover.
I don't know if it's sort of intimidation. You're very loud, as we've touched on. You're intelligent. You're very outspoken. You love an argument. You love, especially if you think you're right, holding your ground and really challenging people. I think those are all really important skills or features of people who are going to climb to the top. Do you think is that fair? Is that what has helped you rise so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably... So I think there's a few skills that, I'm not the best at Genesis or in my team at, but it's the combination of them, So, I'm good at maths and modelling stuff, and my team does a lot of, quite mathematical, we're producing financial forecasts based on distributions of outcomes, and we're talking about the skewness and kurtosis of different distributions. It's that if you're doing maths at high school, there's always some kid, you get to a level of sixth form or something, or year 12, and some kid always goes, well, when are we even going to use this in the real world? So I'm the guy that uses that in the real world. Was that you, Shay?
Yeah.
So I'm the guy that uses that stuff in the real world, so I'm good at that, but I'm also good at trading and making decisions, and I'm not the best at that in my team, but I'm pretty good at that. And I'm good at commercial deals and commercial situations and doing negotiations and stuff, and again, not the best, but good at that. And I'm kind of good at some communication stuff and some leadership stuff, and again, not the best, and there's a lot of people better than me, but it's a combination of things. I think that is not being the best at any one of those things, but actually when you put them together, a lot of the people who are good at mathematical modelling and trading and commercial and communication and leadership, it's kind of different skills that combine.
They're quite contrasting jobs, aren't they? Playing poker in your pajamas versus wearing a suit and tie every day and answering to the CEO. Which one is the real Shaun Goldsbury?
All of them and none of them. So I think I actually had 10 years without having to wear shoes to work. So I was a volleyball coach for 5 years and worked in sport, and it was mainly beach volleyball, and it'll wear jandals or bare feet, and then the poker you can wear whatever. I mean, I think, so I think all of them. There's parts of me in there, and there's parts that don't get shown in that environment, that don't. So the poker, what I really missed in the poker is I missed the people interaction. I actually got into a bit of poker coaching, and I'd coach some people online, and I'd work for a poker website and write some articles, and I enjoyed that sort of stuff, but I didn't, I missed that people interaction, and I love the mental challenge, and I think the job I have now is that combination of that mental, intellectual challenge of some hard problems to solve, but interaction with people, and I guess the volleyball coaching, that's the people side, and the poker is intellectual, and my job now is kind of combination of those two.
If someone's listening to this podcast now and is interested in poker, would you recommend they try to be a professional poker player?
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy it and do it, there's no, play it. And if you do it, I'd recommend people start. I did it low stakes, so I played $5 sit and go. So a sit and go is 10 people at the table, and you pay $5, so $50 prize pool, 25 for first, 15 for second, 10 for third. And I played one table $5 sit and goes for probably 6 months and just learnt the game. So I'd suggest start low and practice and read books and learn. And there's a lot of online resources. You can watch YouTube videos and.
But is it achievable? I mean, the game is obviously a lot more advanced than it was when you were crushing it and making money. There's obviously so many more avenues for people to learn, and books and websites and YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So it would be so much tougher for someone to try to do what you did now.
Oh,
right?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's hard. It's not easy, and it's emotionally tough. And like I guess we've talked about, I'm actually pleased you brought up Queenstown, because a lot of people, you talk about the $400,000 wins and Moorman losing 60 grand and stuff, and they don't talk about the losing months and the hard times and the down times, and it's actually a more balanced view. I don't think it's.
Mental health in sport is an interesting kind of topical thing right now.
Yeah.
In terms of poker, is that a thing that's spoken about at all between players, or is it quite superficial and it just doesn't really get brought up?
No, because you're mostly on your own, right? Like what we had was actually a bit unusual of a group of guys together. Most of the guys that play are by yourselves or living with a partner, or a lot of guys are 18 living with their parents. There's not a group thing, there's not a support thing. So it's actually quite unusual that we had that and we created that. But yeah, no, it's not.
Because I can imagine it'd be it'll be a tough. You've mentioned it. It's a tough existence, right? Like
I think Shaun's quite unique as a poker player. A lot of them. And this might be a broad stereotype, but there's a lot of introverts who aren't very good socially and are kind of awkward, and
like you
could never go on to sort of do other more public roles. They're the safety, especially online poker, sitting away in a computer and not having to deal with people. Whereas Shaun is a very outgoing, loves a drink and life of the party type guy. But yeah, I think definitely. Mental health is a factor for a lot of people who are struggling and maybe use poker or playing online games as a shield for not getting out there and perhaps doing other things with their life that they find difficult.
Yeah, and definitely I met a lot of guys in Las Vegas that I talked to online and were quite friendly, and I remember going, literally you're in a nightclub in Las Vegas, and I can't remember, it was on the roof somewhere, and there was a pool and there's drinks flowing, people partying, and the guy's just sitting there on his phone and not engaged. And I tried to talk to him and didn't want to talk to me, and just a lot of socially isolated people that don't actually like people, and actually super smart guys and make a lot of money. But yeah, you're definitely right. There's a big aspect of that to the online poker world.
So I had a beer with Goldsberry last week, and we were talking about the podcast, and I said, "Oh no, you'll be a great guest. We'll talk about poker and your rise at Genesis." And he said, "Oh yeah, my football stuff." I was like, "Football?" I was like, "Seriously, Shaun? I didn't even consider talking about football with you." "Yeah, that's right. You played a bit of football, didn't you?" But on reflection, I think it's worth talking a little bit of football with Shaun, because we've done a little bit of digging.
Oh, that's generous, Steve.
That's
nice.
He did achieve a few things, and we've actually gone to Pete Smith, former coach at Tauranga City, where you played, and he said this about you. He said, "Shaun was a great captain for me at Tauranga City, honest and hard-working. He had the respect of all the lads and the board, and someone I hold in real high regard. He always saw the positives in everything and was the heart and soul of the squad, on the pitch, off the pitch."
Sorry, what?
Spice rum has gone straight to the head. "Off the pitch and at the bar. A genuine top lad with a heart of gold." So let's talk footy, Shaun, because I know that we're going to get into your claim to fame as being the tallest player in the National League in 2001. But what many people might not know is that you actually won the Northern Premier League with Tauranga in 2000. And traditionally, Between Two Beers is a football podcast. So what do you remember about the heyday of Shaun Goldsbury as a footballer?
Well, I think everyone who meets me knows that I won the Northern Premier League in 2000 and played National League in 2001. Look, I grew up in Gisborne, and as a kid, Gisborne City was the club of the 80s. they won the Chatham Cup in '87 in the National League team, and actually, it was a big football town. And I remember my primary school had standard 3 and standard 4. We had 4 football teams and no rugby teams, and it was just a product of that era of Gisborne City and all the players that came out of there. And so and so played football my whole life, and it was my main sport. A little bit of cricket and tennis when I was younger, but mainly football. And went to uni, played at Unicol for a bit, played at Melville, played in that North Island South Island league that we had for a while. Got to play with Paul Nixon, which is actually a highlight. I watched Nico. I believe he's been a podcast guest as well. So he was
great guest.
He was. So I remember watching him in the late 80s for Gisborne City as a kid, and he was, I'd rate him as one of the best players I played with, and he wasn't at his peak when I played. He was probably mid-30s, but you could just see the class that he had and, in his prime. So I went from Melville to Tauranga in 2000 and Northern Premier League and won the league there, and that was an awesome group of lads and an awesome team. They had a team of guys that had been together for a long time, and for the football listeners, Dion Bartosh and Brett Derry and Kevin Manville, and there's a few older guys, Tony Valentine and Paul Probert, another Gisborne City lad I watched growing up. So Jimmy Pammon in goal, who I was most of the way through your podcast with him. So I was but fortunate to join a team of really good lads and to fill a role they needed at right back, and kind of as a 3-5-2, so playing centre back, but kind of on the right.
I believe it or not, I see some similarities between you and I on the football field in that we're not particularly we're not particularly aesthetically pleasing players. So we've got kind of ungainly styles, but we're problem solvers, and that we find ways to be effective.
Yeah. So if I had to give a tagline for my not just football but volleyball career, it would be Shaun Goldsbury. He's better than he looks.
That's great.
So I with football and volleyball, I got to the level where I was the worst athlete on the pitch and I was the worst skills, but I would compete with strategy and tactics and a bit of physical toughness and a bit of mental toughness. And I marked a lot of really good strikers. Like, you go back through that era and everyone in those days from All Whites and National League, and I marked all those guys and was successful against them because, except for one, which I'll get to, but they're all one-dimensional, right? And they had a thing that, so your thing is you're smart and you make good decisions, right? And other guys were fast, other guys were strong, other guys were ball players that drop into the field. And so what I was good at is I'd figure out what their strength was, and I'd figure out how to not let them play to their strength, and I'd make them play to their weakness. And so I was able to have some success against some guys that, we're really good players. The only player I struggled with was Thomas Edge from Gisborne, another good Gisborne lad.
What a player.
And the problem with Thomas was he was fast and he was strong and he was smart, and I just couldn't do anything, right? And he outthought me, and he was more skilled than me and not as big as me, but pretty close and a lot faster than me. And I remember playing Waitak, and Larry Seals, the Tauranga coach, said, Thomas Gisborne boy, won't you mark him? Yeah, Seals, I got him. Scored a hat-trick. Scored a hat-trick. So but look, everyone's got their strengths, and to be honest, I was proud that I got to that level where I was the worst player on the pitch, but I was competing with and being in good teams and winning, Northern Premier League. And actually, that National League year, we had I was on the bench for the first 2 or 3 games, but started the rest of the year, and we were actually doing all right. We were kind of closing in on semi-finals. We were a bit rough at the start because it was a new level. We were doing well, but then Tony Lockheed went overseas to the States, so we had a 3-5-2 as a left wing back, and we didn't have a real replacement, and we kind of tailed off after that and finished 6th or 7th, I think. So.
You were always a big team culture guy. Even as an older guy in the team, you'd be leading the parties, or we'd having people back to our house in Papamoa.
Yeah.
Is that something from Gisborne that you always felt like that team camaraderie was such a big part?
Yeah, totally. Look, so all through high school and all through... The thing about Gisborne, I was playing men's football when I was 14, right? And all through high school I played against men and men's football, and all through university, and I never had any money, and I was broke and on the bones of my ass. And actually, we talked about the Gizzy boys and your Grant Coopers and Dave Watson and Ross, and we were all broke as shit. But what the older guys team and the team did is they looked after us, and they bought us beers, and they got us a jug. And, and Melville was a really good club. There was always someone to, get us a jug and help us out. And kind of, we were always very thankful. And I remember actually a guy in Gisborne, Peter Stewart, was a bit of a mentor. I remember him saying to me, I said, I'll pay you back. Always. He said, no. He said, one day you'll be the old guy, they'll be a young guy, and you look after them. So I thought, well, that's sweet, I'll do it. And then I free rolled for about 5 years. Got the free beers in. And when I went back to play for Tauranga City in 2010, and it was Northern Div 1, The problem was, it was me and Tom Livesey that were both in our 30s. The next oldest guy was Isaac Bright at about 24. So,
That's Stephen's situation now.
But the problem was, I felt this debt to all those guys that looked after me and bought me beers and looked after me. I literally had a whole team of guys. Unfortunately, it was the same year I won the poker money, so I just bankrolled the team. I went, right.
This is my year.
Yeah, I went, right, like, if you guys want to be here, let me know. There's a lot of students and a lot of young guys, and I, I didn't have all the years of football some people did. It was my year, and so I wanted to create a good culture. And the only thing I asked of the guys was, I was a bit disappointed at the start, like, they didn't know any of the names of the people at the club, and you guys have been in football, like, you got the guy behind the bar, Ken, and you've got Ron Boyle, who was the chairman, you've got people to help out, and the guys didn't really know any of them. So I said, look, I don't mind bankrolling you guys, but the club's looking after you, and you've got to know those people's names, you've got to talk to them, and that's part of the culture. So they kind of took that on board, and they, so I was really stoked by the end of the year. They, I wanted to lift up our culture as a team, and part of it was recognising, there's a lot of volunteers in football and people on committees and stuff that do a lot of shit that...
Are you the guy at Genesis that knows everybody's name as well?
I try to be. There's 1,100 people, but
within reason.
Yeah. I look.
Hey, Dave. My name's Steve Shaun.
Yeah, I mean, there's a poker philosophy. Like, the best players in the world, I'm better than them at something, and I can sit down with them and have confidence. But the worst players in the world, I can learn something from. So even the guys that are horrible, they'll play certain hands well or certain situations well, and I think I take that into work. Like when I wasn't on the exec and I was going in to talk with them, I remember we got like the boardroom, and then there's a waiting room you go in. I remember sitting there several times and thinking to myself, and I was a bit nervous, and it was some pretty high powered, very smart people. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'd school these guys around a poker table. Like if I got on a football field, I'd kick lumps out of these guys. They haven't got a chance. Right, and just to give myself a bit of confidence. But then there's lots of other people around the company. We have interns, young people come in, like they'll be better at some stuff than I am, and I can learn from them. And it keeps you balanced. It keeps you not getting, gives you confidence, but it also keeps you not getting too kind of cocky and stuff. So yeah, it's important to me to talk to everyone and know everyone, and everyone's got a different job title, but everyone's important.
Not knowing how your brain works, how much strategy are you applying to Genesis? You've got a team of people working under you, you're running the show at meetings and things. Are there certain ways you're approaching meetings or work or life that are strategic?
Yeah, absolutely, and probably too much at times. Yeah. Like I'm definitely guilty of over-analysing stuff, and I take stuff away and think about stuff too much, and and sometimes I should just be a bit more instinctive and just go with it. But yeah, I do tend to reflect a lot and think a lot and try and be quite careful and deliberate about how I act around the team and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
You're probably the most competitive person I know, and it gets a little bit excessive and extreme sometimes. I have one vivid memory when we were living in Queenstown and we went out and we were playing mini golf. And it was me and Bon and Beej and Puggy. It was just a social game of mini golf. And it got quite close towards the end, and I very distinctly remember you like someone busted you cheating to win the social game of mini golf. Like it meant that much to you.
What did he do? Shaving shots off.
Yeah, shaving shots off. Mark and Car. I don't know.
Oh,
it was like
it's
club head.
It was like, oh, Shaun, what did you get? I got
2.
4, but he's written down.
That's vague and unspecified and all founded, and my lawyers told me to not accept any of those allegations.
But there were numerous examples of it. I remember the sports day at the Lockheed's place, and it was just like these things which didn't really mean that much to anyone else, but you were super.
What does a sports day at the Lockheed's house look like?
Oh man, it was an amazing day.
Amazing. So they have a tennis court, a beach volleyball court, croquet on the main lawn.
Beach volleyball court.
So Tony's brother Jason and sister Tracy are both New Zealand reps at beach volleyball.
Yeah.
They have a golf, $20,000 putting green they put in. They have a table tennis table. So it's literally just a bunch of activities and a bunch of beach volleyballers and a few footballers, all kind of professional athletes.
But I think it came down to the last round, and Shaun needed someone to win so that he would get more points, and someone else not to win. He's like, I'll give you $100 not to compete in this round or something like that. Like
that's totally false, Steve. What it was look, and a bunch of good athletes. Jason Lockheed is the best of all the athletes and would win the sports day, but he had an injury and missed 2 events, and that meant it was close. And so what happened is we're playing croquet as the last event, and he was winning, and if I got second, I'd win the overall day. So our mate Brendan Heath, there was prize money, like everyone put in money and it was prize money. I said to B Heath, if you let me beat you, I'll give you half the prize money because I'll beat Jason, it'll piss him off. And he'd always won, and so B Heath got on board with me. So we kept a little scheme, and he threw the game, and I got second, and Jace was absolutely wild, and he was livid, which was
How did you go in the tennis?
good.
You quite the player.
Yeah.
Because I've got it on very good authority that you've gone on record to say that you could beat any New Zealand women's tennis player.
That's actually false, Shay. What I said in Las Vegas drunk one time, I said if I had 2 years training professionally, I could beat one of the Williams sisters.
And do you stand by that?
No.
Good.
No, I got a little bit carried away, and I got a little bit.
Is it similar with your golf game? About
Can I just stop there, because I love that, because this is being publicly broadcast, he's had to own up to that. I think if we weren't on the record, he would argue this point, and he would dig in and say, well, 5 years ago when I had my knees and this sort of thing.
Yeah, look, I will say, in fairness, I was a top ranked tennis player in Gisborne, and I played a lot when I was young. I was a good tennis player, and I played a couple of guys went on to get scholarships in the States, so I wasn't a bad player. And it was actually, I think, about 2 years.
Scott Copeland.
Training. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Tennis player, Gisborne.
Yeah. Tall kid.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
could you beat him?
when we were younger, I did, because I was a few years older than him. So I remember playing him at our house. I might have been 4 years older, 5 years older.
4 years old. He's my age. So 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember beating him when we were. I might have been 18. He was 14 or something.
Just flexing some gizzy knowledge.
Yeah. So that's So it wasn't totally irrational, just a little bit unreasonable.
Okay. So what I was getting at is the most competitive person I know, to the point of angle shooting, friendly competitions. Where does that come from? Is that brought on by your family, your school? Like, where does that super competitive spirit come from?
So, yeah, look, my whole family's like that to some extent. If you want to play board games with my mum, it won't be too different than playing with me. My nan actually tells a really good story about. She was actually my biggest competitor growing up, and she was a good athlete when she was young. And she used to babysit us after school, me and my sister, when we played tennis and table tennis and whatever. So I used to play table tennis with her, and we used to play, and it was a real battle. And she would beat me, and I'd just burst into tears. And we had a chicken coop or shed around the house we lived in on a lifestyle block, and I'd run around the corner behind the shed and cry and bawl my eyes out. And then I'd be about 20 minutes, and I'd come back, and I'd be wiping the tears, and I'd be like, let's play again. And she's like, no, I'm not dealing with that. And then I'd beg her, and she'd play me again, and she'd beat me again. Like, she was merciless, and I'd run around and cry again. And the sad thing was I was about 13. Like, I wasn't a young kid, I was quite an old kid. But yeah, I've just always been like that. I've just always wanted to win everything I did and be better than everyone else, and be really upset when I couldn't. And I don't know. Let's call it a personality flaw.
We better briefly touch on volleyball.
I was going to say, can we dig into your volleyball?
That's nice.
Career.
So you played for New Zealand Beach in 2004, indoor 2005, first in a decade to do both. You won a national title with Tauranga Indoor, and you coached New Zealand under 19. Puggy sort of mentioned it at the start. You do these things and then you move on. What was with volleyball? I mean, do you still keep an active hand in the game? Did you just get over it and move on to football?
Yeah. I started on football first. So actually, we started Tauranga City National League. I was never a runner. I was never athletic. And Tony Lockhead and myself and another guy, JC, who used to be in the team, decided we'd rather play beach volleyball than do off-season training. And then, so I started for that purpose. And actually, I got to the point where I realised I reached my limit in football. My limit was won the Northern Premier League, starting line up on a good National League team. Was never going to get any better than that, and so go and play volleyball. So
Did you play at school or anything like that, or
nah? So I picked it up when I was 22. Never played before. Learnt it. Learnt it. Just picked it up. It literally is off season because I prefer not doing 5k road runs. It's never been my thing.
How comfortable were you with the shirt off beach volleyball?
Oh, I think
you would have been a singlet guy.
No, I think.
Hang on, let him answer.
I think, I was 23, 24, 25 at the time. I was very comfortable. I had, I was a former National League footballer, and I was in good fitness and good shape, and
Nice.
so I think you're comparing 42-year-old Shaun Goldsbury with
Well, no, I was actually comparing Characters United Shaun Goldsbury playing in full skins. One game, which was a great sight.
Yeah, just for the listeners, when he means full skins, he means nothing over the top. Just literally
just
the
Nike,
skins with everything hanging out.
Nike
By the way,
Pro.
just while we're on this, Shay, I enjoyed you guys' intro. And it was I went away and did a few jobs and came back, but I never actually got to say how I met you.
Yeah.
So my first real memory of meeting Shay, now that we're an hour into the podcast, was actually the Chatham Cup final.
2003.
No, that you, the one where
2010.
Oh, no.
the one where your brother-in-law Ross McKenzie got subbed after about 36 minutes, I believe, and threw all the toys all over the place.
We went into great detail.
So I remember. So anyway, so we went to watch. So Steve was a good mate. Was in the Chatham Cup final with Bay Olympic team and Ross McKenzie and a few other, don't know you, Craig Wileys and whoever else was part of that team. And so we went to watch, and there was a few of us in the stands lined up. So it was me and Puggy and B did some of the poker boys. And I remember this large, attractive man was there, and I was kind of looking at him, and I was kind of going, I kind of know who he is, but I don't recognise the face. And I knew everyone else, so I just went up and said, "Hey, bro, I'm Shaun," and went to shake your hand, and you looked at me and went, "It's Seamus, you dick." and I realised at that point that it was Seamus, and I knew Seamus, but there was at least 25% of Seamus I'd never met before. And so we don't know how we met, but it was at least 10 years earlier in the Waikato day, and I just literally didn't recognise. The head wasn't as big the last time I met you. So.
I thought you were going to say, because this is an interesting one to share from that day, but Stephen's wife, Bonnie, I think that was possibly the first time that I really met her as well.
Yes, she was with our crew.
Yeah, and a friend of ours, Byron Harris, has a unhealthy obsession, one with my earlobes, but two with my belly button. And I have quite a deep...
Oh, it's so deep.
I have quite a deep belly button.
It's so deep.
And as a consequence of the depth of it, sometimes it's not as, I don't know, it just picks up some odour. And Byron popped his finger into my belly button, scooped it around a little bit, and then slid it underneath Bonnie's nose and said, what do you reckon of this? And Bonnie's immediate reaction was, that's the worst thing I've ever smelt in my life. And that, I don't think I've ever lived that down. So...
Yeah, so that's how I met Seamus.
And that's
amazing memory.
It's the wife of your two kids.
Yeah. All right. So
hang on. Could we jump back to volleyball?
Yes.
Yeah. You're on the board of Volleyball New Zealand.
So I've done coaching, I've done playing, and I joined the board recently. I actually, at our office at Genesis, I was down in the coffee shop one day. There's a guy called Graham Steele there. So he's the CEO of New Zealand Sport and Drug Agency.
Steelo.
And Steeler, and former New Zealand volleyball rep.
Steely Dan.
And
said too many.
Yeah. Drive back to Hamilton too.
And he was on the board, and he was leaving to go overseas, and kind of said, "Do you want to go on the board?" And I actually said to him, "I don't have time to play or coach." He said, "No, you've got time. You just choose not to," which is true. I have time. I just choose to do other things with it. So yes, I'm still involved in volleyball a bit, and bringing some of the Genesis skills. A bit of financial. It's been some hard financial times for volleyball as a minor sport, and just trying to help the sport out and give back a little bit. Not involved in playing or coaching anything.
But so is that your sporting passion over football, volleyball?
No, I'm probably swung back to football now. I guess football was like a lifelong passion that I had growing up, and grew up wanting to play for Gisborne City, wanting to play for the All Whites, and like a lot of the guys that I grew up did. So there's a lot of All Whites. There was 4 Gisborne City guys in the '82 World Cup team, and that wasn't a reality. I went and did something else, but going to volleyball was really about, I had a high ceiling, so I knew I had a chance to make New Zealand teams, and I I went to the World University Champs in Guadeloupe on a Caribbean island and represented, playing against, Germany and China and all France and all sorts of countries. I went to Thailand, coaching the men's national team, played in Tahiti for the indoor team, in a stadium of 1,000 rabid Tahitians screaming at us, playing the local team. So I would have never got those opportunities with football. And love the sport, and it's an awesome sport. But I guess, I'm back at Western Springs playing over 35s, making lots of friends.
I got a little bit my nose out of joint when I Googled you in preparation for this podcast, because your name popped up on the New Zealand Olympic Committee website.
Yeah.
What's that in regard to? Because my thing to hold on to was that I'm the only person that I know that's kind of in that Olympic circle, and lo and behold, there you are.
Yeah, so I was
pissed me off.
Yeah. Oh look, I can ease it a bit, so it's not a full Olympic. So I was the assistant coach of the men's under-19s at the Youth Olympics in Sydney.
So it's not a real Olympics.
So it's not a real Olympics, and we had our whatever chef de mission was Hamish Carter and Sarah Ulmer. So that was about as close as we got to real.
When was that?
Olympians around that 2006 maybe 2004 something like that.
Someone around this table's farted.
Don't know if you can say that on air. I'm going to steer this onto the home straight now, Shaun. You mentioned that the real you perhaps is a blend between the poker player and the corporate high flyer, and I'm going to pay very close attention to how you answer this, because I don't know how many of your fellow executive members at Genesis or colleagues will be listening.
I guarantee none of them are made at this deep, so ask away.
Okay. So what does the future hold? Puggy mentioned that he's surprised that you've got a short attention span. He's surprised you've stuck it at the sort of corporate gig this long. Where do you see the future?
I really like Genesis, and I think the reason I'm stuck with that longer than anything else is because it's been so much difference, from being an analyst to being a trader to being a manager to being a general manager to now being on the executive. Like, they're all totally different roles, and actually the people's changed and the company's changed. So love my role, love working there. It's an awesome place, some awesome people. I don't have any plans to go anywhere anytime soon. I've never really planned things out. I don't have a big life plan, as you can tell from my career. It's kind of, am I interested in enjoying myself? I'll do it. If I'm not, I'll go and do something else. I think I've thought about getting involved in sport again. A lot of, CEO type roles and stuff tend to be either people from a sports background or from a commercial kind of banking background. You think about some of those guys they have running the rugby league and Aussie and stuff. So kind of combining my two interests at some point in the future. I've still got pretty strong ties to the Gisborne area, and all my family are there, and ultimately going home someday to do something for that region, and those people would be part of it too. To be honest, if I had a dream job, it would be to own the Dallas Cowboys. Now, that's probably about $3 billion US, so I'm not... but again, combines that business sense with that sport competition.
It's a long way from Gisborne, though.
It is a long way from Gisborne, but it's just quite a short season, 16 games, so I could probably get around that. But... outside of that, I guess like a general manager of the Warriors or something like that, like where you're involved in sport, but you're not playing, you're not coaching, you're running the business side, you're getting players, you're swapping players, you're recruiting, something like that would be, like combining those two worlds. So if there's opportunity in the future to kind of do that would be awesome. But I don't have any specific plans or anything. We'll just see how things unfold.
Well, it's been a bit of a departure from our typical Between Two Beers guests, but I have really enjoyed this pod, Shay. Anything left on our list, or you want to wrap up?
No, the last few times I've done the list thing, I've just been shot down. So all I'm going to say is I've learnt a shit ton more about you than I probably previously knew, and that was really cool. Like living in Las Vegas and living in Switzerland and all that sort of stuff, even just doing research like the volleyball, playing for New Zealand, throwing things around. I'm just that excited.
Yeah.
No, it's been awesome. It's actually been awesome and this is kind of the beauty of what we do, is finding out a little bit more about people that are in our circle and other people finding out about them as well. So thanks, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, and appreciate you touching on my football career, Steve. That means a lot to me
No worries.
to recognise that.
Nice to have you part of the Between Two Beers family. Thanks for your time, Shaun.
Thanks, guys.
And that's us.